Welcome to the WrestleTalk News. I'm Pete Quinnell. In case you missed it, CM Punk returned on Collision this past weekend. I know, it was pretty low-key, no one really talked about it, especially not Brian Children, who's now no longer working with us. Sorry, Brian Children. But shockingly, after Punk said some things on the show, it seems to have ruffled some feathers backstage in AEW while not ruffling others. This is big news and very unexpected. Some notable things Punk mentioned as part of that promo: he's one Bill Phil, tell him when he's telling lies, and the wrestlers that people like are soft. It's that last line in particular that some have reportedly taken umbrage with. This comes from Fightful Select, who spoke on the backstage reaction to Punk's return promo as a whole. There were reportedly some backstage who felt like Punk was just getting out what he needed to get out, but there were others who felt it was hypocritical to make comments about being soft after Punk was upset about his Hangman Page feud, promos, and spots he'd spoken about before. Select is also reporting that there were non-disclosures applied to the Bucks, Kenny Omega, and CM Punk with one another, but not with Hangman and Punk, which doesn't necessarily bode well for TK in preventing more potential backstage drama from spilling out in the future, as PW Insider is reporting that Punk's Collision promo was 100% improvised and off the cuff, and considering he has no restrictions on not talking about Hangman, and if he's allowed to continue to not script or approve his material beforehand, there's every chance that something else could come tumbling out of Pepsi Phil's mouth. With reports noting that the Elite may not be present for this week's episode of Dynamite, meaning that Punk may be able to appear at the show, it seems that the plans for any sort of brand split in AEW aren't going to be happening, and Fightful Select is reporting more on those initial plans backstage. Plans were reportedly set out about a month ago to the AEW roster, indicating that there were plans for a firm brand split with two distinct rosters. Plans which were reportedly received with mixed reactions. Plans were then changed to a soft brand split with talent sharing occasionally, to talent being naturally shared across shows. Interestingly, AEW also reportedly had plans in place for a transfer portal, which they trademarked to be part of their brand split plans, but that idea has been shelved for now. Now, here comes the real question: which is worse, transfer portal, superstar shakeup, or wildcard rule? I mean, transfer portal's up there. It does sound awful. Thankfully, they did scrap those plans because, oh boy, I think it would have been derided in much the same way as WWE's similar ideas. But now, a quick message for you watching this video. Yes, you! I see what you're doing. That's gross. Stop that. Do you want to work for WrestleTalk? Do you know how to edit videos? Good, because WrestleTalk is looking to hire a new junior editor to work with us on this show, the WrestleTalk News, in our studio and office in London. If you think you've got the stuff and want to work with us on this very show, then send an email, cover letter, and any examples of your editing work to the Indeed job application page listed in the description below. But please, only apply if you can actually commute to our London office. That bit is very much necessary. Now, good luck, and over to Luke.
But first, here with another potential match of the year, it's journalist and founder member of the Rickmansworth Ramblers, Mark Markuson. Mark, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Luke. Are you enjoying the sunshine? Never mind. This week's match of the year, hold your breath, comes from an American promotion. Yes, it's Alex Shelley versus Steve Macklin for the Impact World Championship at Against All Odds.
Oh, great, Impact!
Yeah, Impact. You won't know much about them. They're an upstart promotion. And
then they've been a pretty big deal for a while. I've been watching them for years.
I don't think you have. They only launched in 2017.
What are you talking about?
You need to spend less time in your echo chamber. This match was a cathartic masterpiece. Alex Shelley is a tag team legend who's had huge success all across the world, particularly in Japan, where he's a 4-time tag champ. He's wrestled for Ring of Honor before they sold out, of course, and he's always been a reliable hand, but as a single star, he's struggled to take off. He's never really won the big one, and that was the story here. Could he finally do it? Could he grab that copper ring? This match had a classic build. It was slow to start, and then the action ramped up. Shelley threw everything at Macklin, and the two traded near falls, but the champ was just too strong. Even locked in an excruciating figure four, Macklin found the will to drag himself over to the ropes to break the count, pulling the turnbuckle off in the process, and in a brilliant piece of ring psychology rarely seen in American wrestling, it was that insecurity that became his undoing. Macklin's own momentum smashed him into the exposed metal, and Shelley capitalized with a shell shock for the 1-2-3. Celebrating in the ring, he was joined by his tag team partner Chris Sabin, who had also won singles gold that night, in a moment you love to see, and you've got to reward that. So, building on last week, this match was 8 stars.
8? Wow, They just keep coming, don't they? I'm actually really pleased to see this. This is really good news because I was a big fan of the Mo City Machine Guns. I was a big fan of them in TNA.
What's TNA?
Thank you, Mark. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good second.
Yeah, no, yeah. Love to the family.
Oh, thank you very much. There's only 3 of them left.
Well, now it's time for my review of Monday Night Raw, aka Where Gargano edition of Monday Night Raw. In about 5 minutes. There was a report from various sources that Vince McMahon made quite a few changes to this week's show, none of which were major, but his biggest change was the opening of Raw, which apparently was very different. And you can tell it was changed at the last minute because the pacing of the first 30 minutes or so of this week's Raw was, well, all over the place. But it did open with probably the best thing this week, as Finn Balor cancelled Seth Rollins' open challenge by kicking the crap out of him, hitting 3 coups de grace off the stairs and off the announcer's table. He continued beating him up backstage, which was a great beatdown, at least I think it was. It was filmed horribly and I couldn't quite see what was going on. All of a sudden, The Miz was in the ring and laid out an open challenge of his own, which was answered by a returning Tommaso Ciampa, who won the match with no trouble whatsoever. Fun fact, The Miz hasn't won a match since December 19th, 2022. Speaking of fun facts, The Miz also got some local Cleveland town heat, as did Logan Paul later on. Do you know who else is from Cleveland? Johnny Gargano. Do you know who's backstage at this week's Raw? Yeah, it was Johnny Gargano. Do you know who wasn't on this show this week, despite it being in Cleveland and being from Cleveland? Johnny freaking Gargano! I don't want to hear none of you tell me that AEW is doing bad with Jay White, because this is unacceptable. Anyway, Corey Graves was dressed like someone I'd avoid at my local Weatherspoons. After a recap of SmackDown, Sami Zayn made a deal with Kevin Owens to not lose his temper on this week's show because he thinks he's got anger management issues. Dr. Shelby return confirmed. This became a show-long storyline of sorts, and most of it was quite funny actually. Judgment Day cut a promo on the stage challenging Cody Rhodes to a trios match later tonight, and Kaden Carter and Katana Chant beat Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville in a short and heatless match. Kathy then interviewed Cody Rhodes on the stage, who just accepted the Judgment Day challenge. Okay then, gotta fill 3 hours somehow, I guess. Also, the graphic of this match was done like a WrestleTalk news thumbnail, and boy howdy do I want to click that video. Indisher continued to not get over and quickly beat Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander in another heatless match, and Logan Paul came out to announce he was just in Money in the Bank this year. So, what were all of those qualifiers for then? Why are all of these chumps competing for this thing when you can just announce you're in the match? Doesn't this make all of your wrestlers look like, well, chumps? You're essentially telling your audience, these guys who wrestle every week are not stars. But this guy is an actual star because he's on TikTok or some. I don't know what Logan Paul does. Is it TikTok? But this brought out all of the other Money in the Bank chumps, minus Damian Priest, who cut generic promos, apart from LA Knight, who completely stole the show. A brawl broke out and Logan Paul, the actual star here, remember, stood tall. I don't think this did anything for the pay-per-view, the match, or anyone in it, particularly because both Shinsuke Nakamura and Damian Priest were pinned later in this show. But as you know, Road Dogg tells me that wins and losses don't matter, and, well, we should all listen to the sage-like wisdom of Road Dogg. Matt Riddle beat Ludwig Kaiser and got beaten down by Imperium after the match, and they set up Imperium as potential contenders for Owens and Zayn, despite Owens and Zayn beating them on multiple occasions. This week, Chad Gable taught Maxine how to do a suplex, and she hit one on Valhalla during Alpha Academy's tag match with the Viking Raiders, but this time it distracted them into losing. Corey Graves made a reference to Rhea Ripley's Instagram stories when she made her entrance for her match with Natalya, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't investigate that any further. Wait, sorry, hold on, Natalya? Natalya, really? Wow, I mean, the match didn't happen because Ripley just beat the crap out of her and the match didn't start, but Natalya? Well, this achieved nothing. That's not fair, as it was used to set up Raquel, my personality is I have her back, Rodriguez, as a contender for that belt, but then she had a bad match with Trish Stratus and it was mostly her fault, so I don't want to see her challenge for that belt now. It was a weird finish too, as Becky Lynch ran down to attack Zoe Stark and then, blinded by rage, attacks Trish to get her DQ'd, so she qualified for Money in the Bank. This was done to protect Raquel in her loss because, sorry, what was that, Road Dogg? Wins and losses don't matter until they actually do, you idiots. But really just made Becky look a little bit silly. She later said that she was now fighting against all of the odds in the ladder match, but she would go down in a blaze of glory. Cody found his tag partners in Owens and Zayn. Bron Breakker or Dominic Toretto cut a promo on Seth Rollins to hype their NXT match tomorrow, and Bronson Reed beat Nakamura after he collided with Ricochet on the apron. Seth Rollins said that he will be at NXT tomorrow night, which sort of undoes the brutal beatdown from earlier, and then Cody Rhodes pinned Money in the Bank contender Damian Priest in a trios match that was a hell of a lot of fun with awesome crowd reactions. Look, I know it sounds like I was a little bit down on this episode of Raw, but honestly, it was totally fine. It didn't really build Money in the Bank, but the Balor beatdown was very good. Plus, Chad Gable wrestled and Maxine hit a suplex, so wasn't all that bad. In fact, it was 3 out of 5. Now, I think I've got something interesting to tell you here, potentially more important, but sorry, hold on. My phone's ringing. Oh, it's Pete. Hey, Pete, what's up? We've got what? We've got AEW Fight Forever installed on the PlayStation. Yeah, I'm coming now. Yeah, okay, yeah. Love you, bye. Sorry. Check other video. I've got to go. Fight Forever's on. I've got to play Fight Forever.